I'm delighted to be talking to Celia today. Wanted to explain to you, I've been running a group coaching program that we called Ikigai, which is about finding your real purpose and passion and pursuing that and having the confidence to do what you want to do in life. And you have such a strong sense of purpose. And actually your slogan on the website is made with purpose and love. Please tell me about that.
Sure, thank you. Well, From Babies with Love is a baby brand that donates 100% of its profits to orphan and abandoned children. And its model has come about in a very incremental way of testing and learning and growing. I previously was head of finance for an NGO, and prior to that was an auditor for a Big Four accountancy company. So I had the idea also on a very traditional mat leave when I'd experienced the emotions of becoming a parent, having always cared about the welfare of children everywhere, experiencing that deepened concern that happens when you are caring for your own as well. And I just picked up, I don't even remember what it was because I was in the fog of sleep deprivation, but a baby grow or a t-shirt or something in a little children's shop. And I just thought, what if I could buy this and help a vulnerable child at the same time? That would really speak to the emotions that parents experience, that I experienced. And I presumed it would be possible. Went home to Google to find such a product online, and it didn't exist. There's a certain amount of stuff that you can buy in what we would consider traditional charity retail, and I love that. And I think it has a wonderful role in our society for the revenue it generates for social issues, as well as the role in the community. But you can't get everything you want or need in a charity shop. And then there's another element of traditional charity retail that I love, which is, a kaftan from Kenya or a goat. What I get really excited about, and what From Babies with Love is an example of, is what about all the other products or services that I need or want? What if I could buy all of those and create social change at the same time? What about that chunk of my disposable income? It would empower me to use my pounds and my purchasing choices as a vote for the way I want the world to be. So I feel really excited that this change is coming, and I think it's being driven by people and their purchasing choices, and that the current context, I think, is even going to, if there's a silver lining to be had, that may be one of them, that will ramp up even more. Mary Portas just last week wrote an article about how people will be looking more and more for brands whose values and contribution to society is core to its business model, its purpose. So obviously I wish that hadn't been given extra impetus by the existence of a pandemic, but and I think these trends were existing and underlying in our societal development and change anyway. So yeah, From Babies with Love is one example in that broader kind of business concept. This year we should hit the milestone of supporting 10,000 children all over the world. In terms of our social impact and where the children are, I feel quite worried. Schools are closed, learning centres in some of the refugee camps and internally displaced persons camps where the children are all paused, are suspended, just like they have here. And obviously social distancing in some of the places where the children are is just not possible. Hygiene is a challenge pre-pandemic, let alone with pandemic, and ventilators don't really exist. And we may adjust how our profit is used to help those children in response to that in the coming months.
And how do you find the charities or the projects that you work with, and what due diligence do you do before you choose to support them?
So our starting point is guidance that the UN publishes. So UNICEF is the UN's body for the care of vulnerable children, and it issues policy briefings on how best to care for vulnerable children. In addition, it has the Sustainable Development Goals, and from there we developed our own toolkit and checklists using that guidance to then assess options to determine what's best. What's best is a very subjective decision. It's a very difficult decision. The need is, in terms of the number of children that need help, is far greater than than anybody at the moment can fulfill. So, it is subjective, but our checklists, our kind of toolkit enables us to make, I suppose, consistent decisions grounded on best practice.
How do you source your products? How do you choose how do you expand the range? and is it made in Britain? And how, is it, who designs it? How big's your team? I'd love to know all these things.
Yeah. So that's a really great question in terms of what I mentioned at the beginning about a very incremental test and learn approach that we've had to growing this business. So I'm an accountant. I have risk aversion in my blood, but I'm now an entrepreneur. So I don't know, the two perhaps balance each other out I hope in a good way. I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm too risk averse, but I did what may be relatable to your cohort is that, you know, it wasn't some big thing like from one day to the next. You know, when I started From Baby to Love, it was an experiment on my sofa with Netflix on, and I worked in the evenings. I had a full-time job, and I went to work and I did my job. I got home, put my son to bed, and then I started work again on From Baby to Love. And for me, that was the right thing to do because it enabled me to experiment and test in a really low risk, really low capital way. After a year of running like that, in the most tiny way, we felt that we'd had the vote of confidence from the response that we were onto something. And then I quit my job. And then one of the things we learned was that we needed to be a brand.
What was the tipping point then? Because a lot of people, you know, start businesses and they're in employment, but they never know when is the right time to actually leave the security of the job and jump to this new, potentially risky enterprise.
Well, it was that, looking back at that, what we'd learned in that year of running it as an evening enterprise, let's coin the new phrase, an evening enterprise. We were just getting incredible feedback, unsolicited feedback from customers.
Who was your first corporate client?
Well, that didn't happen for another 18 months, but we'd had the idea for it in that test period, because what was happening was we could see from customer data that we were collecting, like gift messages if you leave online, you know, when you check out, some of those would be love everybody at company XYZ, or love, and you know, the marketing team, or love, and it'd be 10 people's names, and we'd know that was a corporate purchase. So we identified that spend was taking place. But to answer your question about when was that, one of the key elements I cannot deny, you know, was I was already married at that point, and my husband had a job, so my personal situation was secure, and that is a really big factor, which I think, you know, I have to mention, because it might have been different if that wasn't the case. It took me 2 years, literally 2 years, to find the right supplier. Extraordinarily long time. I had no idea how long that would take and how difficult it would be. You know, it wasn't a learning curve. It was a learning straight up vertical line. It was from scratch to how do I figure this out? Because in addition to all the commercial elements that I had to get right, for us and our social purpose, I had to be entirely confident, like sleep at night stuff, that there is no child labour in our supply chains, because that's not a PR disaster for us. That defies our entire purpose. So the due diligence into that is huge. And then one of the most significant factors is finding a supplier that would take us on, because we're probably still our supplier's smallest customer. Our key suppliers, certainly, you know, they supply all the big high street names that you know, and they supply us. But I wanted that because of the level of assurance I want over the quality of our product. And actually, our quality is better than many of those high street suppliers, because we exclusively use organic, because our environmental standards are really high as well as our social. Yeah, every time we launch a new product, we look for suppliers in the UK. We normally can't find them, or if we can, the resulting retail price is just so, I mean, it's just unworkable.
Yeah, there's got to be an opportunity there, because they're talking now, obviously, post-Brexit, post-COVID, about supply chains being more local.
All of our garments go through, for product safety, they go through an X-ray machine to check for any broken needles. We'd have to have somebody investing in, or imagine, you know, those little poppers that go on little baby things to get them off and on easily. They get stamped down with this like full force of a thing. I don't even know what the machine's called. So the upfront capital expenditure and the volume required to make that work is so great. And in countries like China, they've got such now an upfront advantage on anybody trying to recreate that elsewhere, that the maths never ever works. Or, you know,
maybe even Cressy creates her solar forge to make rivets and belt buckles. she can do your little, the press studs, she can do the studs.
But we launched candles. You asked about, do we launch new products? And we do. We launched candles last year, soy, eco-friendly ones, and they're made in the UK. So that was really pleasing to be able to do that here in a way that still is competitive and actually leaves us a margin at the end of it all to give to the children.
What was your biggest challenge going through that startup process?
It's something I'm still grappling with, if I'm honest, and that is that I spend my time doing things that I shouldn't. It's not so much letting go, it's even realising and identifying that you're spending your time doing something you shouldn't. So I spend far too much of my time still managing operational processes when all I should be doing is selling the brand and pitching to the biggest win opportunities that we have. 18 months ago, our board tasked me with doing a timesheet, which made me giggle because, of course, if you're an accountant, if you don't do your timesheet, you're in trouble. And it was so illuminating. It helped me to then identify how we were going to build the team, design the job descriptions, to just take stuff off my plate. And we're still on that journey. The more I spend my time doing the things I should be doing, the more we'll grow. So it's kind of frustrating because I know that we're limiting our own potential by that.
How did you recruit your board?
I sent old bosses at KPMG and some friends in my network in roles I knew were relevant to what we wanted to achieve, my first business plan. And I thought, would you mind just reviewing this for me and critiquing it and see what you think? Do you think it's a good idea? And they all kindly did. And they all said they thought it was a great idea. So then I said, right, can you join the board now, please? I mapped out the skills I thought we needed on our board. And then I mapped out my network and I looked at where it matched up. And there were lots of great matches. I have kept in touch with what is it HR leaders are doing to build their retention rates of working parents and thereby women and thereby achieve greater gender balance. Yeah, the clients that have had most success in improving their gender balance are ones that have implemented flexible working policies. And that's not possible in every industry, depending on the nature of the work, but it is possible in a lot. And as you say, the pandemic illustrates what is possible. It's not even that, is it? Because working at home in a pandemic with your kids around is not what flexible working means.
Tell me about, you're talking about what you should be spending your time on. When you're talking about pitching, how do you grow your business now? Is it business to business sales, or are you talking about?
Yeah, the fastest growing part of our business is B2B. The way that I've learned, and again, this has been such an interesting area of learning for me because I had no marketing experience before. But what I've really feel more confident and feel that we've honed now over the years is articulating how we solve a problem and really, really identifying what our customers' problem is, really being able to immerse ourselves in their shoes, what's on their plate, what's on their to-do list, and present a very concise pitch that just solves that problem.
So tell me about some of the awards that you've won and what the impact has been on the business and on you.
I feel a little bit unsure about that impact for us. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, and it obviously it makes me proud and it's great for the team, but I don't know, I find it a bit of an industry, the awards thing, and I wake up every day thinking, right, how do we help more vulnerable children today? And to be honest, I would say writing an award application is not the answer to that question.
I think that's a brilliantly candid response and very truthful, and I love that.
But the best ones are, as speaking to that point, is where you don't even know that you've been nominated, or someone's nominated you and they haven't told you.
So which ones were they?
Last year we were nominated by somebody. I had to Google who she was. She's the CEO of a publishing company. I've no idea how she knows us. I sent her a thank you card. I haven't even had the opportunity to buy her a thank you lunch. She nominated us for the Verve Clico Businesswomen's Award. I'd heard of that as a very credible award. I was a runner-up in the Social Purpose Award to a lady who I hugely admire. I mean, she's got a CBE. Runner-up to a lady with a CBE is fine by me, so we got to go to that was amazing.
I just got to ask, I know it's really shallow, but do you only drink Verve Clico at the award?
Well, I did get given a stash, I must admit.
What's it like? I want that so much. I've got to go. Got to. There must be some amazing women there, though. There must be. Yeah, I mean, that must be an awesome event just to be in that company.
Totally. So the founder of the White Company was a winner, and so I hustled my way to her EAs and PR team, and I was like, "Hi, can I have a meeting with her, please?" And I got one. And so I told, I said to her, "If you were me, what would you do next?" So from that, I got to have like a mentoring session with a hugely successful businesswoman. So that's amazing, and I've put into practice something that she planted a seed in my mind. So that's been brilliant. And the other lovely one, that's an example of where it wasn't me sat here writing an application form, was this year, and this was somebody nominated me for the Prime Minister's Point of Light Award. Just over there, it's not of you, actually, a letter from Boris.
Send him a baby gift.
I thought about it. I even thought, shall I try, imagine, is a photo of Boris outside number 10 with baby in our blanket good for the brand? And I was like, I don't really know the answer to that question. Because I've tried it with the royals, of course. I'm like, we would help so many children if a member of the royal family, instead of on the hospital steps with nondescript blanket, used a social enterprise blanket. I would love to see some leadership from him in terms of his parental leave. And his approach to being a working, he already was a working dad, but a working dad with a newborn. Still think that he could be really progressive in his approach in the coming months, despite the workload he's got.
I've been asking the other people that I've been speaking to about, we've seen so many brilliant examples of female leadership around the globe during this pandemic. Is there anybody that stands out for you?
Well, obviously, Jacinta. Everybody must say Jacinta. I mean, gosh, that the global community is looking to her and placing her on a pedestal and encouraging her on. There are so many things that were so embedded in our culture and our habits that we don't even question them. We don't even notice that they're a bit odd. Whereas there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people in this country that work compressed hours in a 4-day week, and it's perfectly fine. And then when we look back at where the 9 to 5 came about, and when we were all on factory lines, needing to be with machines in a certain time frame, and think, well, that, as we were discussing, barely exists in this country anymore. So why is it we do a Monday to Friday 9 to 5? And it takes people like that to say, well, let's do it differently. And it's considered totally wacky and radical, but it's not.
Do you work part-time or do you work full-time?
I work full-time, but I work flexibly. Like, when there's a Christmas play, I'm at the Christmas play, and when someone's puked up at lunch, I go and collect them. And my husband also does. I mean, we're shift working at the moment, and that means working at night, and it might mean working at the weekend, and all of that isn't ideal.
What do your boys think about From Babies with Love?
Yeah, that's a lovely question, because there are some really sweet things that I've seen them do that they've just made me smile, because I haven't been actively teaching them about social enterprise, but there's just a osmosis thing that's happening. So a couple of years ago, Isaac, he's my 9-year-old, he had a stall at the school Christmas fair as like a little young entrepreneur thing. And he said, "Mum, I'm going to design some cards with designs. I'm going to draw endangered species on the cards, and we're going to sell them, and all the profits are going to go to Born Free, which is a charity for endangered species." And so that is the From Babies with Love model completely.
What's the next challenge?
So, yeah, our current goal is to support 25,000 children. That's our key KPI. Our measure of success is the number of children we support. It is a crude measure, let me tell you, because of course the nature of what that care looks like is fundamental. But for a quick and easy way to convey our aspiration, it's a number and it does the job. So this year we hope to hit 10,000 children. We had put a plan in place to hit 25,000 in 12 months' time. Our momentum and the systems and pipelines we've built for growth made that a really achievable target. We have now the nervousness of what's going to happen in our markets for the rest of this year. So let's see, but we're still going to go for it. I mean, the need is great. So you can imagine how much work there still is to do beyond that. We want to be one example of a business that not only addresses a social issue or helps address a social issue, but demonstrates how business can be designed to address and prevent in the first place social issues. And so the second part of our aspiration is to grow in our role as an example of a way of achieving that.
What a brilliantly positive note to finish on. It's been such a joy speaking to you. I could speak to you all afternoon. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope that we'll stay in touch.
Me too. Thank you, Ju.